Hi, BookTube. It's Gina. Can you believe we are almost at the end of 2021? This has been another rather crazy year, and I'm just reflecting a lot this week on the year, on my reading, and starting to think about 2022. And as I do that, I want to share something with you that might be a little bit controversial, but I want to talk about goals because I will not be setting any reading goals for 2022. Now, does this mean I won't be reading in 2022? Sure, it does not. It just means that I am going to read whatever I want, whenever I feel like it. And this, I have to admit, has been my general philosophy of life for quite some time now. A little bit of background. I'm 54 years old. I've been working for many years, and I feel like I have a really nice career. I have a job I really enjoy. I make good money for the work that I do. I feel like I'm fairly paid, and I do work that I think is important. But I did not set a goal to get here. Now, this, of course, is not quite the same thing as reading goals, but I'm just going to give you a little story time to kind of tell you how I landed where I landed. Um, every year when it comes time to set goals at work, my poor boss and bosses for probably the last 20 years have to deal with me saying, can't my goal just be I'm going to show up for work and not be cranky? And they always roll their eyes at me and say, no, Gina, that cannot be your goal. You have to set some goals. So, of course, every year for work, I set these random goals, and I always achieve them. But they're virtually meaningless to me. And it's sort of the same thing with reading goals. I have in the past set a reading goal on Goodreads. Primarily, I use Goodreads for tracking and just as a way to monitor what I'm reading, because I don't keep a reading journal or diary. I would like to, but I've started a few, but I just can't for some reason stick with it. So I do like Goodreads for that, and I've set Goodreads goals in the past. But one thing I find for me, and I don't know if this is the same for you, is the number of books that I put as a goal on Goodreads has virtually no impact on the number of books that I actually read. And so as I start to articulate how I feel about this and thinking about it in a way that I can kind of talk about it, I realized a few things. One is that there was a really good article. I'm gonna share a little bit of this with you, and I'll link this article down below because this is one of my favorite articles, and it's old. It's from many years ago. It's from ZenHabits.net, and the title of the article is "The Best Goal is No Goal." The best goal is no goal, and it's by Leo Babauta, and it's on his website, and I'll link it down below. And it starts, the idea of having concrete, achievable goals seems to be deeply ingrained in our culture. I know I lived with goals for many years, and in fact, a big part of my writings here on Zen Habits are about how to set and achieve goals. These days, however, I live without goals, for the most part. It's absolutely liberating, and contrary to what you might have been taught, it absolutely doesn't mean you stop achieving things. It means you stop letting yourself be limited by goals. I love that sentence. Now, one thing I want to say here is that I started my YouTube channel back in February with literally no goals. I still really have no goals around my channel. This is going to be a theme throughout this video. If I had sat down and said to myself, I am going to start a YouTube channel. I am going to have 500 subscribers by X date. I am going to do 3 videos a week. I would have frozen myself. I would not have been able to function. But by allowing myself the freedom and the flexibility to just do what I wanted, to talk about what I wanted, to turn on my phone and just start talking about books with you, I have grown, I have learned, and I plan to continue to do that in 2022 with no goals. Um, and so I think that my point here is that we put so much pressure on ourselves to meet certain criteria, to be super productive, to read X number of books a year. And I think it causes so much anxiety. And I don't want anxiety to be part of my life, not just part of my reading, part of my life. I don't want to be on this productivity hamster wheel where you are constantly trying to keep going, keep doing, keep working so hard, having a side hustle, and never just being able to step back from that. So, step off the hamster wheel, relax, take a nap, read a book that you want to read, even though it's not on your TBR or it's not good quality literature. I just want my life and my reading life as part of that to be open, to allow me to grow and to learn and not be limited by goals. So Leo's article continues. Consider this common belief. You'll never get anywhere unless you know where you're going. This seems so commonsensical, and yet it's obviously not true if you stop to think about it. Conduct a simple experiment. Go outside and walk in a random direction, and feel free to change directions randomly. After 20 minutes, an hour, you'll be somewhere. It's just that you didn't know you were going to end up there. And there's the rub. You have to open your mind to going places you never expected to go. If you live without goals, you'll explore new territory. You'll learn some unexpected things. You'll end up in surprising places. And that's the beauty of this philosophy. But it's also a difficult transition. So the article goes on, and I'm not going to read any more of it because I think you get the gist of where I'm heading with this. And so from a concrete perspective for me, what this is going to mean for 2022 is that I won't set a Goodreads goal. I continue to track my books on Goodreads. I like to do that to see how many I have read. So that's my first thing. No Goodreads goal. I'll put one book in there so that it allows me to track by year. Number two, I've talked about this a little bit before, but I also want to continue and to work on removing judgmental and guilt-ridden language from my discussion of books, but also of life, of work, of my value. I don't want to say, oh, I had a bad reading week this week. I only read one book. I also don't want to say, wow, I had a great reading week this week. I read 10 books, because both of those on either side are value judgments, that if it's a good reading week one week, then subsequently if you don't do that much, it's a bad week the next week. And so I want to remove that judgmental language from the way I talk about books. But also, as I'm thinking about this, it also applies to life in general. I plan to retire someday, and I don't have a goal for when I want to retire. I have some thoughts about when I'd like to do it, but I've never sat down and said, I need X amount of dollars and this is what I need to do in order to retire. But I'm probably going to retire when I'm 55. So even without having goals about how much to save and when I want to retire, I'm still going to be able to retire. Now, granted, there's planning involved, right? And there's probably going to be some planning involved in some of my book choices because I am going to want to participate in Jane Austen July, and I'll probably do a TBR for that. I might even buy a book. I'm going to want to participate in Victober, and so there is going to be some planning. I'm not saying I'm never going to plan or I'm never going to do a TBR because I do love doing TBRs, and actually I did pull some books off of my shelf that I think I might read in January. But you know what? If I don't, it's okay. It's totally fine. There's no risk involved. I can read these books. I cannot read these books. I can read other books. Whatever. Does this seem a little loosey-goosey? Do you all think I'm a little bit off the deep end? Or does this sound really good? Like, oh, I can just take a breath. I can take a nap. I can do nothing. I can watch TV. I can sleep in. I can read. I can not read. It's totally fine, whatever you want to do. I'm going to encourage everybody watching this to turn off YouTube and go take a nap. I think we are all chronically underslept. We don't get good rest. So go take a nap. That's my first piece of advice. I also did want to mention, I saw on Jennifer at Insert Literary Pun Here's channel a few videos ago. Let me see if I think I've got a picture of it here. She did a video and mentioned this book that I had not ever heard of before, and it's called Laziness. Why? Wait a minute. Sorry, you guys. I lost the. Here it goes. Laziness Does Not Exist by Devon Price, PhD. Laziness does not exist. You get sort of. I'll grab a screenshot maybe and put it up here so you can see it a little bit better. But this book just really spoke to me when I saw Jennifer talk about it. I thought, I really need to get that book because I really agree with this sort of issue with toxic productivity now, where nobody's allowed to slow down, nobody's allowed to not have a side hustle. I just think that laziness does not exist. It's okay to slow down, to take a nap, to take a bath, to read a romance novel, to read whatever you feel like. So I'm definitely going to get this book. This is one of the things that I want to read. I'll link Jennifer's channel down below. It's a wonderful video. She's actually talking about books she's trying to not buy, I think, this year. So I really enjoyed hearing about this book because I had not heard about it. I almost named my channel, my YouTube channel, Lazy Cow Reads, because I really believe that it's okay to, we're going to reclaim lazy. We're going to allow ourselves to not be productive all of the time. So I think that's all I wanted to talk about with that. Next time somebody says, "How are you?" don't say, "Oh, busy."